in mind that we have in national regulations additional requirements for safety of buildings that consider other parameters than just CPD determinations. CPD determinations are just here to be able to sell materials everywhere in the market and not to build safe buildings. That's why we have also national regulations on, for example, smoke control, detection, and many things like that.
I know those exist. That's why Dr. Byers is here this afternoon to talk about some of the national to CPD. But you have the same problem in those national regulations.
Exactly.
In other words, this is not unique to the Construction Product Directive. Okay, it's an obvious problem there because it affects everybody. But all regulatory systems, without exception, have this problem. Okay, which is that you cannot have innovation and performance-based regulations and believe that the regulations will generate safety. It's not possible. And it's that simple. And so if you're going to have performance-based regulation, you have to go back to the Code of Hammurabi, and the builder is totally responsible for the thing. There's nothing there that says if you comply with the code or that anybody other than the producer is responsible. This is 3,000 years old. I go to the Louvre every so often and make sure it's still there, that nobody just walk up. And that's where it goes. That's the nature of technology. The people who produce it have to be responsible for it. And that's us. And I'll put it this way, I'm an academic because I'm far too shy of retiring to be a trial attorney in the United States. So they are the people who will come after you. And you'll have to rely on quiet, shy folks like me to speak up for you. So, okay.
Any other questions? Alan?
Well, as usual, you opened up a whole can of worms. Very good. I'd like to see questions which should be brought out, not just by some of the target. I agree with the basic tenor of what you said, I mean, certainly. But it does raise questions, because what on earth is safe? Safe, really, is going to mean anything greater than zero probability of fatality, quite frankly. Because if realistically you're going to have something like 10 to minus 3, 10 to minus 4 or something, which will probably be fatality in the public in some situation, then, and you jump up and say, right, that's safe. I mean, you're an engineer, you've done your calculations, 10 to minus 4, right, I say it's safe. As soon as there's a fire, of course, and there are fatalities, then it obviously wasn't safe. So the word safe is the problem. I think you have to use the word risk.
I've got a whole separate lecture on that.
Yeah.
I'm aware of both the argument and background. But let me put it this way. That's why the Concorde is in a museum and not flying. Okay? Because the unreasonable assumptions made about its safety turned out to be untenable in the modern world. And the question of what is the public's tolerance for demonstrable levels of risk and how much people are just like the mortgage thing, they're running on faith, well, it hasn't crashed yet, kind of stuff, is very, very interesting. And we go back and forth. I'll give you an example of where, talk about phased evacuation. Who in a high-rise building is going to stay on a floor due to a soothing message from a speaker that says, the building's on fire, but you're not to evacuate because you're safe where you are? Do you think those people aren't going to head for the exits? I mean, phased evacuation is dead. Anybody who believes that the fire engineers control the information that flows to the people is crazy. All right? And these are things, I agree with you on the broad, sorry, there's no question, I teach a whole course in that. I agree with you that society has to decide what level of risk, but the level of risk that is in various things has to be properly articulated. Has to be properly, and it isn't.
I think it's leading on to that's the one which is always ignored by politicians. What is an acceptable risk? Right. And they just won't ignore it.
I'll tell you why. Because as soon as they give the engineers a number, the engineers will bright line it and design right to it, and kill that number of people, and any errors fall over the line. That's exactly what they do because I've watched them. And so that's why the politicians leave it. It's a fuzzy logic problem. They leave it tight, difficult for the engineers to figure out, because otherwise the engineers will go out and kill people. Instantly. They'll say, okay, we can kill 3.9 people per year in this building. Based on this kind of, fine. Only 4 people died this year, that's rounded up, that's okay, we're fine. Society doesn't like that. Yeah.
I think there's also a problem of juridic responsibility and dilution of this juridic responsibility. Because the risk in itself is linked to a system and not to materials in it, or not only.
Well, my article on that, on design process failure and system failure, I published that in Berlin last year. So, okay.
So it's really
Yeah,
very
I agree.
complex because all actors have a part of responsibilities, and what is effectively the responsibility in a tribunal, for example. And
right.
In a court, it's where you will have the answer, I think, and it will be a conventional answer, and you will have the dilution of the responsibility.
I'm laughing because Bernd is speaking on some of this at the end of the day, and his French, of course, is very good, and mine is not. So he knows all the right words to use to respond. So, yeah.
What sort of regulation do you think is appropriate? Is it some sort of development of this, or some sort
Okay, I really believe I have a whole analysis that we call the Mandarin Manager Interface. That if you're going to have performance-based design, you need Mandarin regulators, people of talent, ability, and which we don't allow in many of these things, who simply sit and say, look, I don't care if the numbers come out the way they go, we're not going to have that. And that they meaningfully have that power, and that power is understood. That's what we do with nuclear power plants. That's fundamentally what we do with pharmaceuticals in the United States. The regulators are Mandarin. And they just simply say, look, I don't care, we're not going to have that. And they get the best advice they can get, and they just say, we'll have it, we won't have it, and the case is closed. And in the areas where we don't have Mandarins, like cars and rollovers and Ford Explorer, that's where we run into all the problems. So that's one of the approaches. Europe tends to have both better trained regulators, but they also have more regulations that limit their authority. So whether they actually can accomplish this within the European setup, I don't know. Trying in Europe to run, this is the problem with national regulation. In other words, we don't have a single market in the United States. We don't even pretend it unless we have, the only place where we have a single market, we have a single regulator. So we don't try this business of decentralized regulation and purportedly a single market. We just don't do it. So, okay? And as long as there's whiskey in Scotland, I'll keep them. Well, I'm a liquid.